The Alpha King rejected his mate. Then he watched another Alpha walk her down the aisle. Chapter 1. The day Alpha King Kale rejected his mate began with rain, cold rain, relentless rain. The sky over Blackthorn Kingdom looked bruised, like it already knew something terrible was coming. Alara hurried through the palace courtyard with a basket of laundry balanced against her hip. Most servants avoided the rain. She couldn't. There was too much work. There was always too much work. Move faster, Omega. A noblewoman shoved her shoulder. Water splashed onto Alara's dress. Sorry. The apology came automatically. The noblewoman rolled her eyes. Pathetic. Alara kept walking. She had learned years ago that arguing only made things worse. At 23, she was one of the lowest-ranked workers in the palace, an orphan. An Omega, a servant, 3 strikes. In most packs, that was enough to ruin a life. Still, she tried to smile. She helped elderly servants, shared food when others were hungry, stayed late when work remained unfinished. Most people never noticed. A few did. One of them was old Mira, the palace healer. Mira stepped from a doorway and frowned. You're soaked again. Alara smiled. I'll dry eventually. Mira shook her head. One day, your kindness will get rewarded. Alara laughed softly. Then that day is very lost. Mira's expression turned strangely serious. Maybe not. Before Alara could ask what she meant, palace horns blasted across the kingdom. Everything stopped. Servants froze. Warriors turned. Nobles hurried toward the central square. The mating ceremony. Alara's stomach tightened. Everyone knew why. Alpha King Kale had finally reached the age where elders demanded he choose a mate. Rumors had filled the kingdom for months. Daughters of nobles competed endlessly. Powerful families offered alliances. Even neighboring packs sent candidates. The entire kingdom expected a royal announcement. Alara wasn't interested. Royal matters never affected people like her. Or so she thought. Come. Mira grabbed her wrist. We should go. Why? Because every wolf in this kingdom is being summoned. That was unusual. Very unusual. Minutes later, thousands of wolves filled the central square. Rain continued falling. Banners snapped in the wind. At the top of the stone platform stood Alpha King Kale. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark-haired, feared throughout the continent. Even standing still, he carried power. The crowd worshipped him. Alara kept her gaze low. Kings belonged to another world, a world she would never touch. Then, everything changed. A sudden scent swept through the square. Warm, bright, impossible. Alara froze. The world seemed to stop breathing. Her wolf stirred violently. Mate! The word exploded inside her mind. No, no, no. Her heart began racing. Across the platform, Kale suddenly went rigid. His eyes scanned the crowd, searching. The elders exchanged shocked looks. Whispers spread instantly. A mating bond. A true bond. Rare, sacred, unavoidable. Kale's gaze finally landed on her. The moment their eyes met, the entire square fell silent. Alara felt sick, because she understood immediately. The Alpha King was her mate. Thousands of wolves followed his stare. Their expressions shifted. Confusion, disbelief, horror, because they saw who he was looking at. A servant, an Omega, a nobody. The silence became unbearable. One elder stepped forward. The moon goddess has spoken. Murmurs erupted everywhere. Kale remained motionless, his face impossible to read. Alara's hands shook. She wished the ground would swallow her whole. Then a noblewoman laughed. Another joined her. Soon dozens were whispering, mocking, judging. The bond felt less like a blessing and more like a public execution. Kale finally descended the platform. The crowd parted. Every step brought him closer. Alara could barely breathe. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to her. Not to someone like her. Kale stopped directly in front of her. For one terrifying moment, hope appeared. Maybe fate had finally chosen her. Maybe her life was about to change. Maybe she wouldn't be alone anymore. Kale looked into her eyes and shattered every dream she had ever carried. No. The word echoed through the square. Alara blinked. What? His voice became colder. I reject this bond. Gasps erupted everywhere. An elder stepped forward. Your Majesty. I said no. His gaze never left Alara. I will not take an Omega servant as my queen. So the words struck harder than any weapon. Laughter exploded across sections of the crowd. Alara's face burned. Kale continued. Fate made a mistake. Every sentence cut deeper. She is unsuitable. More whispers. More laughter. More humiliation. Alara struggled to breathe. The bond between them screamed in agony. Yet Kale showed no hesitation. No regret. Nothing. Just cold rejection. The elder looked horrified. A true mate cannot simply, I am king. Kale's voice thundered across the square. I choose my future. The crowd erupted into cheers. Nobles celebrated. Families with ambitious daughters smiled openly. The ceremony ended moments later. And just like that, Alara's life was destroyed. Hours later, she sat alone behind the servant quarters. Rain dripped from the roof. She hadn't stopped crying. Not because she loved Kale, she didn't know him, not really, but because he had rejected her before the entire kingdom, before thousands of witnesses, before every person who already believed she was worthless. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. You shouldn't be alone. Alara looked up. Old Mira stood nearby. She sat beside her quietly. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, Alara whispered, Was he right? Mira frowned. About what? About me. The healer's eyes softened. No, but everyone agreed. Everyone is not always correct. Alara laughed bitterly. He looked at me like I was nothing. Mira took her hand. Then she said something strange, something that made no sense at all. One day he will beg for the chance to take those words back. Alara shook her head. Never. Mira stared toward the distant palace. You don't know who you really are. Alara frowned. What does that mean? Before Mira could answer, a palace messenger appeared. Breathless. Panicked. Searching specifically for Alara. There you are. The young warrior looked terrified. Alara stood. What happened? The messenger swallowed hard. Then he revealed words that changed everything. The royal archives were attacked tonight. What does that have to do with me? The warrior stared directly into her eyes. Because whoever broke in stole a file. Alara's heart pounded. A file about what? The messenger hesitated, then spoke. A file containing the truth about your birth. And somewhere inside the palace, Alpha King Kale had just learned the exact same thing. Chapter 2. The royal archives had never been breached before. Not once in 300 years. The building sat beneath the palace, protected by warriors, protected by magic, protected by ancient laws. Yet someone had entered, and they had stolen only one thing, a file about Alara, nothing else. The thought made her stomach twist. She followed the messenger through the palace corridors. Servants stared. Nobles whispered. Everyone still remembered the rejection ceremony. Their looks carried pity, or amusement, sometimes both. Alara kept her eyes forward. The messenger finally stopped outside a small chamber. 2 royal guards stood outside. Their expressions were tense. Go inside, one said. Alara hesitated, then pushed open the door. Old Mira was already there. So was Elder Rowan, the oldest member of the royal council. His silver beard reached his chest. His face looked unusually pale. The moment Alara entered, he stood. Sit down, child. Child. Not Omega, not servant. Child. That alone felt strange. Alara sat slowly. What is happening? Nobody answered immediately. Mira and Rowan exchanged a look. Neither seemed eager to speak first. Fear crept into Alara's chest. Please tell me. Rowan finally sighed. The stolen file contained records from 23 years ago. Her age. Exactly her age. Elara swallowed. And it documented a newborn girl. Her heartbeat quickened. A newborn found outside the kingdom border. Elara stared. Found? Not born? Found? Mira gently squeezed her hand. You were adopted by the orphanage. Elara blinked. I know that. No, Rowan said softly. You know part of it. Silence filled the room. The elder leaned forward. The truth was sealed by royal order. Why? His eyes darkened. Because people died protecting that secret. The room suddenly felt smaller. Much smaller. Elara's mouth went dry. What secret? Before Rowan could answer, the chamber door burst open. A guard rushed inside. My lord. Rowan stood immediately. What happened? The king has ordered the investigation transferred to him. Mira frowned. Transferred? The guard nodded. He wants complete authority. Elara looked down. Of course he did. Kale controlled everything. Even now. Even after rejecting her. The guard hesitated before adding something else. The king specifically requested the girl. The girl. Not Elara, not mate, not citizen. Just the girl. Pain flickered inside her chest. Mira noticed. So did Rowan. The elder's jaw tightened. He doesn't know what he's doing. The guard looked uncomfortable. His Majesty is waiting. Alpha King Kale stood inside the war chamber. Maps covered the walls. Generals filled the room, but nobody spoke. Because the king looked furious. A shattered glass lay near his feet. Another broken object. The third today. His wolf was restless, agitated. Every instinct screamed the same thing. Mate. The bond refused to disappear, even after rejection. That should have been impossible. Yet he could still feel her, still sense her emotions, still detect flashes of sadness. The connection remained. Weak, damaged, but alive. Kale hated it. Or at least he told himself he did. The chamber door opened. His advisor entered. She is here. Kale turned. And saw Elara. For a brief second, something unexpected happened. The room disappeared. The generals disappeared. The world disappeared. There was only her silver-brown hair, her tired eyes, the hurt she tried to hide. A strange ache hit his chest. Then he crushed the feeling instantly. Leave us. The generals obeyed immediately. Soon they were alone. Elara remained standing, silent, guarded. Different. Before the ceremony, she had always looked at him with respect. Now she barely looked at him at all. The realization irritated him. You know why you're here? No. Her answer was short, cold. Kale frowned. She had never spoken to him like that before. Not that he cared. Of course he didn't. The archives were attacked. I know. The thieves stole information about you. I know that too. Kale crossed his arms. What aren't you telling me? Her eyes widened. What? You expect me to believe this is a coincidence? For the first time, anger flashed across her face. Real anger. I don't even know who my parents were. The response surprised him. Because it sounded honest. Painfully honest. She took a breath. Then another, trying to remain calm. You rejected me this morning. Her voice trembled slightly. And now you're interrogating me. Kale said nothing. Elara laughed bitterly. Do kings always treat people this way? The words struck harder than they should have. Kale's jaw tightened. You are connected to this. I am connected because someone stole information about me. She stepped closer, her eyes shining with hurt. What exactly do you want from me? The room fell silent. Kale didn't have an answer. Because beneath the suspicion, another question had begun forming. Who was she? Why would someone risk death to steal records about a servant? And why had royal orders sealed those records for 23 years? None of it made sense. A sudden knock interrupted them. A scout entered, breathing hard, covered in mud. Your Majesty. Kale instantly recognized the expression. Bad news. What happened? The scout swallowed. We found the thieves. Everyone froze. Where? The eastern forest. Kale stepped forward. Are they alive? The scout's face turned pale. No. The room became deathly quiet. All 6 are dead. Alara gasped. Kale's eyes narrowed. Who killed them? The scout hesitated, then delivered the answer. We don't know. What do you mean you don't know? The man's voice shook. Because no wolf did this. A chill ran through the room. Kale felt it too. Explain. The scout looked genuinely frightened. The bodies were arranged in a circle. Nobody spoke. And carved into the ground was an ancient symbol. Kale's heart stopped, because he already knew which symbol. There was only one ancient mark capable of terrifying experienced warriors. Only one symbol erased from history. One symbol connected to a fallen kingdom. A kingdom destroyed before Alara was born. The scout whispered the final words. The crest of Aurelian. The name hit the room like thunder. Alara frowned. I've never heard of that. But every drop of color vanished from Kale's face. Because he had. And according to every history book ever written, every member of the Aurelian bloodline had died 23 years ago. Exactly 23 years ago. The same year Alara appeared at the orphanage. The same year her secret file was created. The same year the records were sealed. Slowly, very slowly, Kale turned toward her. For the first time since their bond appeared, he wasn't looking at an Omega servant. He was looking at a mystery. And perhaps something much more dangerous. Then Elder Rowan suddenly burst into the chamber. Panic covered his face. Your Majesty! Kale frowned. What now? The old man looked directly at Alara, then spoke words that changed everything. Someone has just attempted to assassinate her. And the assassin had left behind a message written in blood. The last princess must die. Chapter 3. The last princess must die. The words seemed to hang in the air. Heavy, cold, impossible. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Alara stared at Elder Rowan. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. Her voice sounded small, even to herself. The old elder looked as though he wished he had. But he slowly shook his head. I don't think so. Kale stepped forward. What happened? Rowan took a breath. A servant discovered the message near the south gate. Where was the assassin? Gone. Kale cursed under his breath. The elder continued. The victim was one of the palace guards. Alara frowned. Victim? He tried to stop the assassin. A terrible silence followed. Then Rowan reached into his cloak. He pulled out a folded piece of cloth. Dark stains covered it. Blood. Alara's stomach turned. The old man carefully unfolded it. Written across the fabric were the same words. The last princess must die. The handwriting looked rushed, violent, almost desperate. Kale stared at the message. His wolf hated this. Something felt wrong, very wrong. Because if Alara truly belonged to the lost Aurelian bloodline, then half the continent would have a reason to fear her existence. And fear made people dangerous. That night, Alara was moved from the servant quarters. She didn't have a choice. Kale ordered 20 guards around her new room. Windows secured, doors protected, no visitors allowed. The protection should have made her feel safer. Instead, it made her feel like a prisoner. She sat beside the fireplace, unable to sleep. A princess. The idea was ridiculous. She had spent her entire life scrubbing floors, washing clothes, cleaning after nobles. Princesses didn't do those things. Princesses wore crowns. Princesses had families. Princesses belonged somewhere. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Before she could answer, the door opened. Old Mira entered carrying a tray. Food, tea, fresh bread. The smell alone made Alara realize she hadn't eaten all day. You should rest. Mira placed the tray nearby. Alara managed a weak smile. I'm not hungry. That's a lie. A tiny laugh escaped her. The first one all day. Mira sat across from her. For a while neither spoke. The fire crackled softly. Finally, Alara whispered, Do you know who my parents were? Mira looked into the flames. Too long. Much too long. And suddenly, Elara understood. You know something. Mira remained silent. You've always known something. The healer's eyes filled with sadness. Some truths are dangerous. More dangerous than assassins? The question struck home. Mira looked away. That was answer enough. Elara's heartbeat quickened. You know, the older woman closed her eyes. I promised. To who? No answer. Please. Still silence. Then, a loud crash echoed outside. Both women jumped. Shouts followed. Warriors yelling. Running. Weapons unsheathing. Mira stood instantly. What was that? The door burst open. A guard stumbled inside. Blood covered his arm. Lock the room! Elara shot to her feet. What happened? The guard looked terrified. Someone breached the outer wall. The words froze the air. Impossible. The palace walls had never been breached. Not by ordinary enemies. Not by assassins. Not by anyone. Yet panic spread outside. The sound of fighting grew louder. Closer. Much closer. The wounded guard moved toward the door. Then suddenly, an arrow exploded through the window. The guard collapsed instantly, dead before he hit the floor. Elara screamed. Mira grabbed her arm. Get down! Another arrow flew past. Then another. Glass shattered everywhere. The room descended into chaos. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. Fast. Purposeful. Coming directly toward them. Mira pulled Elara behind the bed. The healer's face had gone pale. Listen to me. What? If anything happens, run. Mira, run. The door exploded inward. 3 masked figures charged inside. Their movements were fast. Professional. Deadly. Not ordinary killers. Warriors. One raised a blade. Mira stepped between him and Elara. Without hesitation, without fear, the assassin laughed. Move aside, old woman. No. His smile vanished. Then die with her. Before he could strike, a roar shook the entire room. Not human. Wolf. Massive. Terrifying. The wall itself seemed to tremble. The assassins froze. Every face turned toward the doorway. And then Alpha King Kale appeared. In full wolf form. Huge. Furious. Murderous. The assassins immediately understood their mistake. One tried to run. Too late. Kale hit him like a storm. The man crashed through a table. Bones snapped. The second assassin attacked. Kale tore the weapon from his hands. The third never even reached the door. Within seconds, the room fell silent. 3 bodies lay motionless. Blood stained the floor. Elara stood frozen. Kale shifted back into human form, breathing heavily. His eyes immediately searched the room. Not for enemies. For her. When he found her unharmed, something strange happened. Relief flashed across his face. Gone a second later. But Elara saw it. So did Mira. Kale approached slowly. Are you hurt? The question surprised them both. Elara shook her head. No. Good. One simple word. Yet it sounded genuine. The king glanced at the dead assassins. Then, at the shattered room. His expression darkened. This wasn't random. Nobody disagreed. One assassin wore a silver emblem around his neck. Kale crouched beside the body. His face hardened instantly. What is it? Mira asked. The king removed the emblem. A silver hawk. Ancient. Familiar. Rowan entered moments later and stopped cold. Oh no. Kale rose. You recognize it. The elder looked sick. Yes. Elara frowned. What does it mean? Nobody answered immediately, which frightened her more. Finally Rowan whispered, The silver talons. The name meant nothing to Elara. But Kale looked furious. The royal hunters. Mira's eyes widened. No. Elara looked between them. What are the silver talons? Rowan swallowed. They were an elite order. Were? They disappeared 23 years ago. Again. 23 years. The same number. The same mystery. Everything kept leading back there. Kale clenched the emblem. The talons served only one purpose. What purpose? Nobody wanted to answer. Finally Mira did. They hunted the Aurelian royal family. Silence. Cold silence. Ilara's pulse hammered. Princess. Aurelian. Assassins. Royal hunters. The pieces were beginning to form, and she hated what they suggested. Then Kale noticed something else. Something hidden inside the assassin's cloak. A folded parchment. He opened it, read it, and went completely still. Kale? Rowan stepped closer. The king slowly handed him the letter. The elder read it. His face drained of color. "What is it?" Ilara demanded. Neither man answered. That terrified her. Because warriors feared battles, kings feared rebellions. But this looked like fear. Real fear. Finally, Kale lifted his eyes toward her. For the first time since their bond appeared, there was no rejection in his gaze. No arrogance. No distance. Only concern. Deep concern. Then he spoke, and every word changed the future. The letter wasn't addressed to the assassins. And Ilara's throat tightened. Then who was it for? Kale's voice turned deadly serious. You. The room went silent. What does it say? Kale hesitated. Just for a second. Then he read the message aloud, and Ilara felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Because the letter contained only one sentence. One impossible sentence. One sentence written by someone who should have been dead for 23 years. Daughter, if you are reading this, your mother is still alive. Chapter 4. The room stopped breathing. At least that was how it felt to Ilara. Her mother. Alive. The words echoed endlessly inside her mind. Impossible. 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 For 23 years she had believed she was alone. No parents, no family, no history, nothing. And now a dead assassin carried a message claiming her mother was alive. It sounded insane. Yet nobody in the room laughed. Nobody questioned it. That frightened her most. Ilara stared at Kale. Read it again. His eyes softened slightly. He unfolded the parchment, carefully. As if it were fragile. As if it mattered. Then he read aloud. Daughter, if you are reading this, your mother is still alive. The sentence was exactly the same. No explanation. No signature. No location. Nothing else. Just those words. A message hidden on an assassin. A message somehow meant for her. Ilara sank into a chair. Her legs no longer trusted themselves. Mira moved beside her. It's okay. No, it isn't. The reply escaped before Ilara could stop it. Her voice cracked. My whole life was a lie. Nobody argued. Because it was true. Kale looked toward Rowan. Tell her. The elder hesitated. Then sighed. The kingdom of Aurelian was destroyed 23 years ago. Ilara listened silently. Officially, every royal family member died. Officially? She repeated. Rowan nodded. There were rumors. What kind of rumors? The old man's expression darkened. That one child escaped. The room fell silent. The child was never found. Ilara slowly shook her head. No. Nobody spoke. No. Her breathing became uneven. No. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The sealed file. The stolen records. The assassins. The royal hunters. The message. The timing. All of it. And she hated it. I don't want this. The confession slipped out. Raw, honest, painful. Kale looked at her. Really looked at her. For the first time, he noticed how exhausted she seemed. How frightened. How overwhelmed. Not ambitious. Not power-hungry. Just scared. A strange guilt twisted inside him. He ignored it. Or tried to. The next morning, the palace was under lockdown. Nobody entered. Nobody left. Guards filled every hallway. The kingdom buzzed with rumors. Most were ridiculous. Some were dangerous. By sunrise, people were already calling Ilara the Lost Princess. She hated the title. Every time she heard it, she wanted to run. Instead, she sat inside a library with Mira, trying to understand who she was. Trying to understand who she had been. Ancient books covered the table. Maps, records, family histories. Most of them revealed nothing. Hours passed. Then, Mira suddenly froze. What? The healer pointed toward an old painting, a faded portrait. Alara leaned closer and stopped breathing. The woman in the painting looked like her, not similar, not slightly familiar, almost identical. The same eyes, the same face shape, the same smile. Only older. Royal clothing covered the woman. A silver crown rested on her head. A plaque beneath the portrait read, Queen Selene of Aurelian. Alara stared at it, unable to move, unable to speak. Mira touched her shoulder gently. I think that's your mother. The words hit harder than expected, because for the first time, this felt real. Not a rumor, not a theory, real. A tear slipped down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, but Mira noticed. So did someone standing in the doorway. Kale. He had arrived quietly. Neither woman heard him enter. The king watched Alara looking at the portrait. Something tightened inside his chest, because she looked lonely, painfully lonely. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he hated seeing it. Alara noticed him. Her expression immediately changed. The vulnerability vanished. Walls rose again. Kale hated that too. You found something. She nodded toward the painting. My mother. The king stepped closer. He studied the portrait, then studied Alara. The resemblance was undeniable. Nobody could deny it now. Not even him. Looks like you. A small smile appeared. Brief, almost invisible, yet it transformed her face completely. Kale found himself staring, then immediately looked away, annoyed with himself. Later that afternoon, Rowan called an emergency council meeting. Every important noble attended. Every military commander. Every advisor. The atmosphere was tense. The moment Alara entered, whispers exploded. She ignored them, mostly. Kale sat at the head of the table. Cold, controlled, dangerous. As always. Rowan stood. We have reached a conclusion. Silence followed. The elder looked around the room. Evidence confirms that Alara is almost certainly the surviving heir of Aurelian. Murmurs erupted instantly. Some shocked, some angry, some afraid. Then Lord Varric stood. One of the richest nobles in the kingdom. A man who had celebrated Kale's rejection publicly. His expression twisted with disgust. This changes everything. Rowan nodded. Yes. It changes nothing. The room went quiet. Varric pointed toward Alara. She belongs to a dead kingdom. Careful, Kale said. The warning was calm, but dangerous. Varric ignored it. If neighboring kingdoms discover she lives, war becomes inevitable. Fear spread around the table, because he wasn't entirely wrong. The surviving heir of a destroyed kingdom could unite old loyalties, claim lands, challenge rulers, threaten balances of power. Varric folded his arms. There is only one solution. Alara felt sick. She already knew what he was about to say. So did everyone else. The noble looked directly at Kale. We hand her over. The room exploded. Mira stood immediately. Absolutely not. Rowan looked horrified. Several advisors protested, but others remained silent. Too silent, because fear was persuasive. Kale's eyes narrowed. You want me to surrender a woman under my protection? Varric didn't flinch. I want you to protect the kingdom. The tension became unbearable. Alara looked around the room and suddenly realized something. Many people agreed with him. Not openly. Not yet. But the fear was there. The calculation. The doubt. She was becoming a problem. A threat. A burden. Exactly as she had always feared. Then Kale slowly rose from his chair. The room instantly fell silent, because when King stood, people listened. His gaze swept across every noble present. Cold, unforgiving. If anyone touches her, the words landed like stone. I will personally remove their head. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Nobody challenged him. Even Varric looked shaken. Kale's voice became even colder. Have I made myself clear? The answer came immediately. Yes. Your Majesty. Good. The meeting ended shortly afterward, but the damage remained. The kingdom was dividing, fear was spreading, and enemies were gathering. That night, Alara stood alone on a balcony. Moonlight covered the gardens. For once, the palace felt quiet, peaceful. A rare thing. She welcomed it. Footsteps approached. She didn't need to turn around. The scent gave him away. Kale. He stopped beside her. Several moments passed. Neither spoke. Finally he said, "You should be sleeping." She laughed softly. "I've had a strange week." A surprising response escaped him. Fair. The silence returned. Less uncomfortable this time. Alara looked at the stars. "Why did you protect me today?" The question hit harder than expected. Kale frowned. "What do you mean? You could have handed me over." His jaw tightened. "I won't." "Why?" A simple question, yet he couldn't answer it. Not honestly, because the truth made no sense. He protected her because every instinct demanded it. Because danger around her made him angry. Because seeing her hurt felt wrong. Because despite everything, the bond still existed. Weak, broken, but alive. Instead, he gave another answer. "Because it's my responsibility." Alara nodded, but she didn't look convinced, and somehow that bothered him. A lot. Then suddenly, a howl echoed across the valley. Both froze. Another followed. Then another. Not palace wolves. Not blackthorn wolves. Unknown wolves. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Kale moved instantly. His warrior instincts taking over. Guards shouted below. Alarm bells began ringing. The kingdom was under threat again. A scout sprinted across the courtyard. Blood covered his clothes. His face was pure panic. "Your Majesty!" Kale turned. "What happened?" The scout nearly collapsed. "They've crossed the northern border." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Who?" The answer sent a chill through everyone nearby. Because only one kingdom would dare move an army now. Only one kingdom had hunted the Aurelians for decades. Only one kingdom feared Alara's existence enough to invade. The scout looked directly at her, then delivered the words that changed everything. "The Crimson King is coming, and according to legend, he had been the man responsible for destroying her family 23 years ago." Chapter 5. The Crimson King. Even the name felt dangerous. The scout's words echoed through the palace courtyard. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. Every warrior understood exactly what the name meant. War. Kale's face became unreadable, which was never a good sign. The scout struggled to catch his breath. They crossed the northern mountains at dawn. "How many?" Kale asked. "At least 3,000. A murmur spread among the nearby guards. 3,000 wolves. Not a raid. Not a border dispute. An army. Alara felt cold. Very cold. Because deep down, she knew why they had come. For her. The realization sat heavily on her chest. People would die because she existed. Villages would burn because she survived. Kale turned toward his commanders. "Prepare the war council." The generals moved immediately. Within seconds, the courtyard erupted into organized chaos. Messengers ran. Warriors armed themselves. Horses were saddled. The kingdom prepared for battle. Alara remained frozen, watching, listening, feeling guilt grow heavier with every passing moment. An hour later, the war council gathered. Maps covered the central table. Military commanders surrounded them. Kale stood at the head, focused, calm, dangerously calm. Alara sat quietly near the back. She wasn't supposed to be there, but Kale insisted. The commanders were not thrilled about it. Lord Varric especially. The noble glared at her every chance he got. "The Crimson King isn't attacking for territory," Varric said. Everyone knew that already. Kale folded his arms. "Say what you mean." The noble didn't hesitate. "He's attacking for her." The room fell silent. Varric pointed directly at Alara. "Hand her over." Again. The same argument. The same solution. The same cowardice. Mira rolled her eyes. "You're becoming predictable." The noble ignored her. "We cannot risk thousands of lives." Several commanders exchanged uncertain looks. Fear was spreading again. Exactly as before. Alara stood slowly. Everyone turned toward her. She took a breath, then another, and finally spoke. Maybe he's right. The room froze. Kale's eyes snapped toward her. No. The single word carried enough force to shake the room. But Alara continued. If people are dying because of me... No. His voice became sharper, harder. The interruption stunned everyone, including Alara. Kale stepped closer. Listen carefully. The room grew silent. I don't sacrifice innocent people. Something shifted inside Alara. Because for the first time, the king wasn't speaking to a political problem. He was speaking to her, as a person, as someone worth protecting. The feeling was unfamiliar. Dangerously unfamiliar. She looked away first. That evening, Kale rode north with his warriors. He needed information. Needed to see the enemy himself. Needed answers. The army camp stood beyond the forest, hidden among the hills. Hundreds of fires burned beneath the dark sky. Thousands of wolves prepared for war. Kale watched from a distant ridge. His expression darkened. The scout had been wrong. Very wrong. Not 3,000. Closer to 5,000. The Crimson King wasn't coming to negotiate. He was coming to conquer. A movement near the center camp caught Kale's attention. A massive tent. Royal banners. Elite guards. The enemy king. Kale studied the area carefully. Then something unexpected happened. The tent opened. A man stepped outside. Tall, broad, gray-haired, older than Kale expected. The Crimson King. Even from a distance, power radiated from him. Then the older king looked directly toward Kale's position. Impossible. He shouldn't have seen him. The distance was too great. Yet somehow, the Crimson King smiled. A cold smile. A knowing smile. And then he raised one hand, not as a threat, not as a challenge, as a greeting, as though he had been expecting him. Kale felt a chill crawl down his spine. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Alara couldn't sleep. Again, too many thoughts, too many questions, too many fears. She wandered the empty hallways, trying to clear her mind, trying not to think about armies, trying not to think about death. Eventually, she found herself outside the old library, a place she had visited often as a servant. The door stood slightly open. Strange. Libraries were usually locked at night. Curiosity pulled her forward. She slipped inside. The room appeared empty, silent, dark. Then she heard it. A whisper. Very faint, almost impossible to hear. Alara froze. Hello? No answer. Only silence. She should have left. Every instinct told her to leave. Instead, she stepped deeper into the room. Past shelves, past ancient books, past forgotten histories. Then she saw it. A candle, burning in the far corner. Someone was there. A hooded figure sat at a table, waiting. Alara's pulse hammered. Who are you? The figure slowly raised their head. An old woman. Ancient. Far older than Mira. Silver hair, golden eyes. Eyes that seemed strangely familiar. The woman smiled. I've been waiting a long time. Alara took a step back. Waiting for what? For you. Fear tightened inside her. How did you get in here? The old woman ignored the question. Instead, she studied Alara carefully, almost lovingly, as if looking at someone she had missed. Then she whispered something shocking. You have your mother's eyes. Alara stopped breathing. Who are you? The old woman's smile faded. Sadness replaced it. Someone who failed your family. The answer explained nothing, yet somehow made everything worse. Alara's heart raced. Do you know my mother? Yes. The answer came instantly, without hesitation, without doubt. Alara moved forward, hope and fear colliding inside her chest. Where is she? The old woman looked away. For the first time, uncertainty appeared. I don't know. The hope vanished immediately. But she's alive. Alara stared. You're sure? Yes. How? The old woman reached into her cloak. Then placed something on the table. A silver necklace. Simple. Beautiful. Ancient. The moment Alara saw it, a strange feeling washed over her. Recognition. Impossible recognition. As though she had seen it before. Somewhere. Somehow. The old woman pushed it toward her. "Your mother gave me this." Alara carefully picked it up. The metal felt warm, almost alive. Then she noticed something engraved on the back. 3 words. 3 simple words. Her hands began shaking, because she somehow knew the handwriting, even though she had never seen it before. It read, "For my daughter." A tear slid down her cheek. The old woman watched quietly. Then suddenly her expression changed. Fear. Real fear. She looked toward the window, listening. "What is it?" Ilara asked. The old woman stood. Fast. Much faster than someone her age should move. "We don't have much time." "Time for what?" The woman grabbed her shoulders, her eyes urgent, desperate. "You must leave the kingdom." Ilara frowned. "What?" "Tonight." The words made no sense. Why? The old woman's face had gone completely pale. "Because the Crimson King is not coming to kill you." Silence. Heavy silence. Ilara stared at her. "What are you talking about?" The woman swallowed hard, then revealed the secret that changed everything. "The man invading Blackthorn." Her voice trembled. "Is your father." The necklace slipped from Ilara's fingers and shattered against the stone floor. Chapter 6. The necklace hit the floor with a sharp crack. The sound echoed through the silent library. Ilara couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her father, the Crimson King, no. That was impossible. It had to be. The old woman watched her carefully, waiting, giving the truth time to settle. But it didn't settle. It exploded. "What did you say?" Her voice barely worked. The woman closed her eyes. Pain flashed across her face. "I said the Crimson King is your father." "No." The answer came instantly. Too fast. Too desperate. "No." Ilara stepped backward. "He destroyed my family. That's what history says." "Everyone says it. History lies." The old woman spoke quietly. Yet every word landed heavily. Ilara shook her head. Nothing made sense anymore. Nothing. The old woman slowly sat back down, as if carrying a burden too heavy to stand beneath. "You deserve the truth. Then tell me." The words came out sharper than intended. The woman nodded, then began. 23 years ago, Queen Selene of Aurelian married the Crimson King." Ilara froze. "Married. Not enemies. Married." The woman continued. "It was supposed to end a war." A memory surfaced. One of the books she'd seen earlier. A forgotten treaty. A royal alliance. She hadn't paid attention at the time. Now she wished she had. "Did they love each other?" Ilara asked quietly. The old woman looked away. At first. The answer hurt, for reasons Ilara couldn't explain. Then the woman's expression darkened. "But someone wanted the alliance destroyed. Who? I don't know." The answer seemed honest. "And one night," the woman swallowed, "Aurelian burned." The library fell silent. Thousands died. Ilara's chest tightened. "My mother?" "Disappeared." "My father?" The old woman hesitated. "Accused." Everything clicked together. Not perfectly, but enough. Enough to create terrible possibilities. "You think he didn't do it?" "I know he didn't." The certainty startled Ilara. "How?" The old woman leaned forward. "Because I was there." Across the northern border, Kale rode through darkness. His patrol had finished. His warriors slept nearby, but sleep refused to come. Something felt wrong. Every instinct screamed it. The bond with Ilara remained restless, uneasy, almost frightened. His wolf paced endlessly beneath his skin. Then suddenly, pain shot through his chest. Sharp, unexpected. Kale nearly stumbled. The sensation lasted only seconds, but it was enough. Enough to make him stand immediately. Something had happened. To her. He knew it. He couldn't explain how. He simply knew. A nearby commander looked up. "Your Majesty?" Kale grabbed his sword. We're returning. The commander blinked. Now? Now. No further explanation followed. The warriors obeyed. Because when Kale's instincts spoke, people listened. Back in the library, the old woman continued her story. My name is Seraphine. Alara listened carefully. Your mother trusted me. The name meant nothing, yet somehow it felt important. Seraphine took a deep breath. The night Aurelian fell, your mother discovered something. What? A betrayal. Alara's pulse quickened. Whose betrayal? The older woman's face hardened. Someone inside the royal family. Silence. Cold silence. Not an enemy. Not an invading army. Family. The revelation felt worse somehow. Who was it? Seraphine shook her head. I never learned the name. Frustration surged through Alara. Every answer created 3 new questions. The old woman seemed to understand. I know. Then suddenly, the library door slammed open. Both women jumped. A guard stumbled inside, bleeding, badly. His face was pale, terrified. Run! The shout echoed through the room. Ilara froze. What happened? The guard collapsed to one knee. They found you. Fear shot through her instantly. Who? The answer came from somewhere behind him. A calm voice. A dangerous voice. A familiar voice. Me. The guard fell forward, unconscious. And a man stepped through the doorway, tall, elegant, smiling. Lord Varric. Alara's stomach dropped. The noble looked completely different tonight. No arrogance, no political mask, just cold purpose. You? Varric smiled. Good evening, princess. The title sounded like an insult. Seraphine immediately moved in front of Alara, protective, defiant. Varric sighed dramatically. You always were loyal. The old woman narrowed her eyes. You know her. Of course I know her. The answer chilled the room. Varric slowly entered the library. His hands behind his back, relaxed, as though he already controlled everything, which terrified Alara, because confident people were dangerous. Confident villains were worse. You should have stayed hidden, Seraphine. The old woman didn't respond. Varric chuckled. No matter. His gaze shifted toward Alara. For the first time, genuine interest appeared. So this is her. Alara felt sick. The way he looked at her wasn't normal. It wasn't political. It wasn't personal. It was calculating. Like a hunter studying prey. You caused quite a problem. Alara forced herself to stand tall. I didn't ask for any of this. I know. His smile widened. Neither did your mother. The mention of her mother hit hard. You know where she is. Not a question. A statement. Varric's eyes sparkled. Interesting. Far too interesting. Maybe. Hope surged inside her. Dangerous hope. Then Seraphine grabbed her wrist. Hard. Too hard. The old woman looked frightened. Truly frightened. And suddenly Alara understood. Varric wanted that reaction. Wanted hope. Wanted desperation. Because desperate people made mistakes. Varric sighed. Still clever. Seraphine ignored him. Don't listen. The noble laughed softly. After all these years, you still don't trust me. The old woman looked ready to spit. That answer told Alara everything she needed. Varric wasn't merely involved. He was connected. Deeply connected. To Aurelian. To her family. To everything. Then the noble's smile disappeared. Instantly. Like a mask falling away. And for the first time, Alara saw what lived underneath. Something cold. Something ancient. Something dangerous. I tried to solve this peacefully. His voice had changed. No warmth remained. No one tried to solve anything peacefully. Seraphine snapped. The noble ignored her. Instead, he looked directly at Alara. You were supposed to die 23 years ago. The words struck like ice. The room fell silent. Varric took another step forward. One baby. Another step. One small mistake. Another. And now kingdoms are preparing for war. Elara's heart pounded. Because he wasn't talking like a noble. He was talking like someone who had been there. Someone who remembered. someone involved. Then Seraphine whispered something. 3 words. 3 horrifying words. You started it. Varric smiled. Not proudly, not happily, almost nostalgically. As always, Seraphine. His eyes met hers. You understand too much. The room went still. Alara's blood turned cold. Because suddenly, she realized the truth before anyone said it. Varric wasn't connected to the tragedy. He wasn't studying it. He wasn't investigating it. He wasn't cleaning it up. He was the reason it happened. The realization hit her like lightning. 23 years, thousands dead, a kingdom destroyed, a family shattered, and the man responsible had been sitting beside Kale this entire time. Then Varric quietly confirmed her worst fear. Your mother should have listened to me. Alara stared. What? The noble smiled. A terrible smile. The smile of a man with no regret. No matter. His hand moved slowly toward a hidden blade. Tonight, I'll correct my mistake. The lights suddenly went out. Every candle in the library extinguished at once. Darkness swallowed the room. Then a roar exploded through the hallway. A roar Alara recognized instantly. Alpha King Kale. And judging by the sound, he was absolutely furious. Chapter 7. Darkness swallowed the library. For one heartbeat, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. A deafening roar shook the walls. Books crashed from shelves. Glass shattered somewhere in the corridor, and every wolf inside the palace immediately recognized the sound. Alpha King Kale. Not angry, not irritated, enraged. The kind of rage that frightened even experienced warriors. Varric's smile vanished. For the first time that night, he looked concerned. A terrible crash echoed outside. Then another. Then screams. The sound of fighting moved rapidly toward the library. Closer. 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 Seraphine grabbed Alara's arm. We have to go. What? Now. The old woman's voice carried urgency. Fear. Real fear. Alara hesitated. Kale was coming. She knew he was. The bond practically screamed it. But Seraphine was already pulling her toward a hidden door behind the shelves. A door Alara had never noticed before. Varric saw it too. His eyes widened. No, the noble lunged forward. At the exact same moment, the main library doors exploded inward. Wood splintered everywhere. And Kale entered. Blood covered his clothes. His eyes glowed gold. His wolf stood dangerously close to the surface. Every instinct inside Alara reacted immediately. Safe. The feeling startled her. Because she hadn't expected it. Not after everything. Not after the rejection. Yet the moment she saw him, part of her relaxed. Kale's gaze found her instantly. Relief flashed across his face. Brief. Raw. Impossible to hide. Then he saw Varric. And everything changed. The king's expression became murderous. You. The single word carried enough hatred to freeze the room. Varric slowly stepped back. Still calm, still controlled. Mostly. Kale drew his sword. Move away from her. The command echoed. Varric laughed softly. You finally figured it out. Kale didn't answer. Because there was nothing left to say. The truth stood before him. The attacks. The assassins. The manipulation. The fear spreading through the kingdom. All roads led here. To Varric. The noble sighed dramatically. I spent 23 years cleaning up one mistake. His gaze shifted toward Alara. And she's still alive. Kale moved before anyone could react. Fast. Violently fast. Steel flashed through the darkness. Varric barely avoided the strike. The library erupted into battle. Alara had never seen Kale fight before. Not truly. Stories existed, of course. Legends. Rumors. Tales told around fires. But stories didn't capture reality. Reality was terrifying. Kale moved like a storm. Every strike forced Varric backward. Every attack carried overwhelming power. The noble fought well. Far too well for an ordinary politician. Which explained many things. Varric blocked another blow. Then another. Then another. His breathing became heavier. Kale's did not. The king looked unstoppable. Until Varric smiled. Again. That smile, the one Ilara hated, because it always meant something terrible. "What are you smiling about?" Kale growled. Varric laughed. "You still don't understand." The noble suddenly jumped backward, creating distance. Then his eyes shifted toward Ilara. And Kale immediately realized the mistake. A distraction. Nothing more. Varric had never intended to win. He only needed one opening. 1 second. One opportunity. His hand disappeared inside his cloak, then emerged holding a small silver object. A dart. Poisoned. Kale reacted instantly. But too late. The dart flew across the room, straight toward Ilara. Time seemed to slow. She saw it coming. Saw death racing toward her. Saw Kale moving desperately. Saw Seraphine reaching for her. Then, pain exploded in someone's shoulder. Not hers. Kale's. The king stepped directly into the dart's path, protecting her. The poisoned weapon buried itself deep inside him. Silence. Absolute silence. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Kale looked down at the dart, then back at Ilara, checking, making sure she was unharmed. Only after confirming she was safe did he react. Ilara's heart stopped. Kale. His knees almost buckled. Almost, but not quite. Varric smiled again. Cold, satisfied. That poison was meant for royal blood. Seraphine's face drained of color. "No!" The noble nodded. "Yes." Kale ripped the dart from his shoulder. Blood followed. Dark blood. Wrong blood. Poisoned blood. The king swayed slightly. Ilara rushed toward him. Without thinking. Without hesitation. The moment she reached him, his hand found hers. Instinctively. Naturally. As though it belonged there. The touch shocked them both. Varric noticed. His smile widened. Interesting. Kale ignored him. His focus remained entirely on Ilara. "Are you hurt?" The questions stunned her. He had been poisoned, and he was asking about her. "No." The word came out broken. Kale nodded once. "Good." Then he turned toward Varric, and something terrifying happened. The king smiled. Not kindly, not happily. Dangerously. Bad choice. Varric's confidence finally cracked. Because he realized something. The poison wasn't working fast enough, and Kale was still standing. The noble took a step backward, then another. For the first time, he looked afraid. Minutes later, Varric escaped. Barely. The palace guards cornered him twice. Kale nearly killed him once. Yet somehow he slipped away, vanished into the night, leaving only questions behind, and a poisoned king. The royal healers worked desperately. Hour after hour, the poison spread slowly, relentlessly. No cure existed, at least none they knew. The atmosphere inside the palace became grim, terrified, heavy. Ilara sat beside Kale's bed, refusing to leave, refusing to sleep. The healers came and went. Mira remained, so did Rowan. Nobody could help. The poison was ancient, lost, forgotten. Which meant Kale was running out of time. The realization crushed her. Because every time she looked at him, she remembered the dart, remembered him stepping in front of her, remembered him choosing her life over his own. Why? The question wouldn't leave. Hours passed. Then dawn arrived. Weak sunlight filtered through the windows. Kale remained unconscious. Ilara's eyes burned from exhaustion. She hadn't slept at all. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "He loves you." Ilara turned. Mira stood near the doorway. The healer looked tired. Very tired. Ilara immediately shook her head. "No." "Yes." "He rejected me." Mira smiled sadly. "People make mistakes." The answer wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Because rejection wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. A painful choice. A public choice. Yet, memories surfaced. Kale protecting her, defending her, searching for her, saving her. Again and again. The contradiction hurt. Nothing made sense. Then suddenly, Kale groaned. Both women froze. His eyes slowly opened. Relief flooded the room. Immediate. Overwhelming. Alara moved closer. Kale? His gaze found her instantly. Not Mira. Not the healers. Her. A weak smile touched his lips. The first genuine smile she had ever seen from him. Then he whispered something. Something only she could hear. I remember. Alara frowned. What? His voice was barely audible. The ceremony. Confusion filled her. What about it? Pain crossed his face. Deep pain. Not physical. Emotional. The kind that came from regret. Then Kale revealed the truth. A truth nobody expected. A truth that changed everything. Because the Alpha King had not rejected her willingly. And the person who forced him to do it was someone they had trusted all along. Chapter 8. The room fell silent. Even the healers stopped moving. Alara stared at Kale. What do you mean? His face remained pale from the poison. His breathing was weak, but his eyes were clear. Clearer than she had ever seen them. Kale looked toward Mira, then Rowan. Leave us. Neither argued. The seriousness in his voice was enough. Within moments, the room was empty. Only Kale and Alara remained. The silence felt strangely intimate, dangerously intimate. Alara sat beside the bed, waiting. Kale closed his eyes briefly, gathering strength, then finally spoke. The day of the mating ceremony. His voice was rough. I knew you were my mate immediately. Pain flickered inside her chest. Of course he had. The entire kingdom had known. Then why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Raw. Honest. Years of loneliness, hidden inside 2 words. Why? Kale looked away. Ashamed. A look she never thought she'd see on him. Because someone threatened your life. Alara froze. What? The king swallowed hard. The night before the ceremony, I received a message. Every muscle in her body tightened. A message from who? His jaw hardened. Varric. The answer hit like lightning. Of course it was him. Kale continued. He knew about the bond before anyone else. How? I don't know. The king's expression darkened. But he knew. A terrible realization formed. What did the message say? Kale looked directly into her eyes. And for the first time, she saw genuine regret. The kind that never fully healed. He told me if I accepted the bond. His voice broke slightly. You would die before sunrise. The room became very still. Alara couldn't speak, couldn't move. Kale looked down at his hands. I didn't believe him. A pause. At first. Then his expression hardened. But he included proof. Fear crawled up her spine. What proof? Kale exhaled slowly. A list. Silence. A list of servants. Alara frowned. What kind of list? The king's eyes closed briefly. A list of people he had already murdered. The air left her lungs. Kale continued. He wrote their names. Another pause. And exactly how they died. Ilara's stomach twisted. Because only a killer would know that. Only the murderer himself. I investigated. His voice grew quieter. And every name was real. The truth settled heavily between them. Kale stared out the window, lost in memory. He told me I had 2 choices. Alara already knew. Yet she needed to hear it. Accept the bond and watch you die. His jaw tightened. Or reject you publicly and keep you alive. The room fell silent. For a long time. Neither spoke. Neither moved. Because suddenly, everything looked different. The humiliation, the rejection, the cruelty, all of it. Had it been an act? A terrible act. A painful act. But still an act. Tears burned behind Alara's eyes. She hated that. Hated how quickly hope returned. After all the pain. After all the anger. After everything. Why didn't you tell me? The question came out quietly. Kale laughed bitterly. Would you have believed me? No. She wouldn't have. Not then. Maybe not even now. The realization hurt. A lot. Kale's gaze softened. I wanted to. The confession surprised her. I tried several times. Another pause. But every time I looked at you, his voice dropped lower. I saw how much I'd hurt you. The honesty made her chest ache. Because he wasn't making excuses. He wasn't defending himself. He wasn't asking forgiveness. He simply looked broken. And somehow that hurt more. 3 days later, Kale's condition worsened. The poison spread deeper, faster. The healers grew desperate. Mira barely slept. Rowan stopped leaving the palace. The entire kingdom felt the tension. Their king was dying, and nobody could stop it. Meanwhile, news arrived from the north. The Crimson King's army had halted. No attacks, no advance, nothing. They simply waited, as though expecting something. Or someone. The mystery terrified everyone, including Kale. Especially Kale. Because armies didn't wait without reason. That evening, Seraphine returned. Secretly. Quietly. Only Alara knew she was there. The old woman looked exhausted. Older somehow. As if the past few days had stolen years from her life. You found something. It wasn't a question. Seraphine nodded. I found someone. Hope surged through Alara. My mother? The old woman shook her head. No. The hope vanished. Then immediately returned. Because Seraphine smiled. A real smile. The first one Alara had seen. I found the person protecting her. Silence. Then, protecting her. Seraphine nodded. Your mother has been hiding for 23 years. Alara sat down heavily. The truth felt overwhelming. Too large. Too important. Where? The old woman hesitated, then answered. Inside the Crimson Kingdom. The words stunned her. What? Seraphine's smile faded. The safest place to hide, a pause, is often beside the person everyone fears. The realization hit instantly. Her father, the Crimson King. If he truly hadn't destroyed Aurelian, if he truly loved Queen Selene, then everything changed. Everything. Then Seraphine revealed something else. Something even more important. The poison. Alara's head snapped up. What about it? The old woman's expression darkened. There is a cure. Hope exploded inside her chest. A cure? Yes. Where? Seraphine looked away. And suddenly Alara knew the answer wouldn't be simple. It never was. Finally the old woman spoke. The cure belongs to your mother. Silence. Heavy silence. Alara's pulse hammered. You're sure? I am. Then we go get it. The answer came immediately, without hesitation, without doubt. Seraphine looked sad. You don't understand. Fear returned instantly. What? The old woman swallowed, then delivered the impossible choice. The cure exists in only one dose. Alara frowned. So? So if your mother gives it away, the woman's eyes filled with sorrow. She dies. The room spun. No. No. No, not this. Anything but this. Alara stood, unable to sit, unable to think. One dose. One life. Her mother. Or Kale. The choice felt cruel, monstrous, impossible. And yet, it was real. Then suddenly a palace horn sounded. Loud, urgent, dangerous. Both women froze. Another horn followed. Then another. War horns. Not alarms, not warnings. War horns. The kingdom was under attack. Alara rushed to the window. Her blood turned cold instantly, because thousands of wolves stood outside the palace gates. Not blackthorn wolves, crimson wolves. And at their front stood a king. Tall, powerful, gray-haired. Watching the palace with eyes almost identical to her own. The Crimson King had finally arrived, but he wasn't leading an assault. He wasn't attacking. He wasn't threatening. Instead, he held a white flag in his hand, the ancient symbol of peace. And when his gaze lifted toward Alara's window, he whispered a single word, a word she somehow understood despite the distance, a word that shattered her heart. Daughter. Daughter. The word echoed inside Alara's mind. Again, and again, and again. The world seemed to stop. Everything disappeared. The soldiers, the palace, the war, all of it. There was only that one word: daughter. The Crimson King stood beyond the gates, motionless, waiting, not invading, not attacking. Waiting. Alara's hands trembled, because for the first time in her life, someone had called her family. Within minutes, the palace descended into chaos. Generals argued, nobles panicked, warriors prepared for battle. Nobody trusted the white flag. Nobody trusted the Crimson King, especially after 23 years of fear and hatred. The emergency council gathered immediately. Kale insisted on attending despite his condition. The poison had weakened him, but nobody dared stop him. He entered the council chamber slowly, pale, tired, yet still every bit a king. The room stood when he arrived. Lord Varric's empty seat remained untouched. A reminder of betrayal. A reminder of failure. A reminder that enemies had worn friendly faces. Kale sat, then looked toward Alara. You stay. Several nobles objected instantly. He ignored them. The meeting began. The Crimson King requests a private audience. The announcement created immediate outrage. It's a trap. Obviously. We should arrest him. Kill him. The suggestions came rapidly. Fear, disguised as confidence. Kale listened, then dismissed most of them. Finally, he looked toward Alara. What do you think? Every eye in the room turned toward her. The attention felt uncomfortable, yet she answered honestly. I think he came for me. Nobody argued. Because everyone knew it was true. One commander frowned. That doesn't mean we trust him. No, Alara agreed. It doesn't. Silence followed. Then Kale made his decision. We meet him. The room erupted again, but the king's choice was final. An hour later, the meeting took place. Neutral ground, a stone pavilion between the armies, equal guards, equal distance, equal risk. Kale arrived first, Alara beside him. Rows of warriors surrounded them, ready for anything. The Crimson King arrived moments later, alone, which surprised everyone. No generals, no advisors, no bodyguards, just him. The older king stopped several feet away. His eyes immediately found Alara, and something remarkable happened. His entire expression changed, the hardness vanished, the caution disappeared. For a brief moment, he simply looked like a father. The realization hit Alara harder than expected, because she had imagined this meeting her entire life. Without realizing it, questions she never knew she carried suddenly demanded answers. The Crimson King spoke first. You're safe. Not hello, not greetings, not politics. Just relief, simple relief. Alara didn't know how to respond. Kale stepped slightly closer to her, protective, instinctive. The older king noticed. His eyes narrowed. Interesting. Very interesting. Then he looked back at Alara. You look like your mother. The statement felt painfully familiar. Everyone kept saying that, yet hearing it from him felt different. Real, personal. She swallowed hard. Are you really my father? The question escaped before she could stop it. The older king closed his eyes briefly. Pain crossed his face. A lifetime of pain. Then he nodded. Yes. No hesitation, no doubt, just truth. The simplicity made it harder to deny. Alara felt tears threaten. She refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not here. Not in front of armies. The conversation lasted hours, and with every answer came another revelation. The Crimson King's real name was Lucian. He had loved Queen Selene, truly loved her. Their marriage had not been political. It had become real. Unexpectedly real. Then came betrayal, a conspiracy, a fire, a massacre, and a missing child, Alara. For 23 years he believed she was dead. For 23 years, Queen Selene believed the same. Until recently, until clues emerged, until whispers surfaced, until hope returned. Then, Lucian revealed something else, something devastating. Your mother is dying. The words struck instantly. Alara's heart stopped. What? The older king looked away. The pain in his eyes said enough. The poison protecting her life is failing. Alara froze. Protecting? What did that mean? Lucian explained. Years ago, Selene suffered a wound during the fall of Aurelian. An enchanted wound. The poison in her body kept the magic dormant. Removing it would save Kale, but kill her. The same impossible choice. Again, mother, or Kale. Life. Or life. No victory. No perfect answer. Only sacrifice. That night, Alara sat beside Kale's bed. The room remained quiet. The king slept, weak. Breathing unevenly, she studied his face. The sharp features, the stubborn jaw, the warrior who had protected her repeatedly, even when she hated him, even when he believed she hated him, even when it cost him everything. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. You love him. Alara turned. Lucian stood in the doorway. She hadn't heard him enter. Neither had the guards, which was impressive and slightly terrifying. She looked away. I don't know. The older king smiled sadly. Yes, you do. Silence followed, because arguing felt pointless. Eventually, Lucian sat nearby. For a while neither spoke. Then he looked toward Kale. I judged him unfairly. Alara frowned. What? Lucian laughed quietly. When I first learned about the rejection, his eyes hardened. I wanted to kill him. That sounded believable. Very believable. But then I learned the truth. He glanced at Kale, and I realized he sacrificed himself for you. The words settled heavily between them. Because it was true. Everything Kale had done recently pointed toward that truth. Lucian stood, then handed her something. A folded letter. Old. Worn. Carefully preserved. What is this? The older king smiled. Your mother's final instructions. Fear shot through her. Final? No. 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 Lucian placed a hand on her shoulder. Gentle. Fatherly. I think it's time you knew. Then he left, leaving Alara alone with the letter. And the sleeping king. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The handwriting was elegant. Beautiful. The handwriting of Queen Selene, her mother. The first line immediately blurred through tears, because it began with 5 simple words. My dearest daughter Alara. She read through tears. Read through pain. Read through love. And by the time she reached the final page, she was crying openly, because the letter contained a secret. A final secret. One her mother had hidden from everyone. Even Lucian. Even Kale. Even Seraphine. A secret that changed the impossible choice. Because Queen Selene had already decided, years ago, long before any of this happened, and according to her final instructions, neither she nor Kale would die, but to save them both, Alara would have to do something no wolf in history had ever survived. Chapter 10. The letter trembled in Alara's hands. Tears blurred the words. She wiped them away, then read the final page again, and again, and again, because part of her still couldn't believe it. Her mother had known. Not everything, but enough. Enough to prepare. Enough to leave instructions. Enough to create one final chance. A chance no one else knew existed. A chance hidden for 23 years. The letter revealed an ancient ritual. Older than kingdoms. Older than royal bloodlines. Older than recorded history. A ritual called the Moonheart Bond. According to legend, it could transfer life between souls. Not steal it. Not destroy it. Share it. The ritual had one condition. A terrible condition. The wolf performing it had to stand between 2 dying lives and willingly offer their own. Not permanently, but long enough to connect all 3 souls. Most wolves never survived. Many lost their minds. Others lost their wolves forever. No one had attempted it for centuries, because the risk was too great. Yet Queen Selene believed Alara could survive it. For one reason. One impossible reason. She carried both bloodlines. Aurelian and Crimson, the last bridge between 2 kingdoms. The last bridge between 2 destinies. The last bridge between 2 broken families. By sunrise, everyone knew. Kale, Lucian, Mira, Seraphine, Rowan. None of them liked the plan, not even a little. It's too dangerous. Kale's voice was weak, but firm. Alara expected that. Lucian agreed immediately. Absolutely not. For once, the two kings sounded identical, which would have been amusing under different circumstances. Alara folded her arms. We don't have another option. Silence followed. Because she was right. The poison inside Kale continued spreading, and Queen Selene had days left. Maybe less. Time was gone. Hope was fading. The ritual remained the only path forward. Finally, Mira sighed. I hate this. Seraphine nodded. So do I. Rowan rubbed his forehead. I knew this week would be terrible. Nobody disagreed. The journey began that afternoon. For the first time in 23 years, Alara traveled toward her mother, toward answers, toward family, toward destiny. The ride took 2 days. Through forests, across rivers, over mountains. Every mile felt endless. Kale traveled despite his condition, refusing to stay behind. Refusing to let her face danger alone. Nobody managed to change his mind. Not that anyone truly expected to. On the second night, they stopped beside a lake. Moonlight danced across the water. The camp slept quietly. For once, Alara sat alone near the shore, lost in thought. Footsteps approached. She already knew who it was. Kale sat beside her. Neither spoke immediately. The silence felt comfortable now. Natural. A lot had changed. Finally, he broke it. You shouldn't do this. Alara smiled faintly. There it is. What? The daily warning. A weak laugh escaped him. The sound surprised them both. Kale looked toward the lake, then toward her. His expression softened. I mean it. I know. Another silence followed. Then Kale said something unexpected. Something honest. Something he should have said long ago. I loved you long before I understood it. Alara froze. The confession hung between them. Simple, raw, real. Kale looked away, almost embarrassed. I thought protecting you was duty. A pause. Then I thought it was guilt. Another pause. But every time something happened, his voice lowered. You were the only thing I could think about. Alara's heart hurt, in the best possible way, because there was no performance now, no politics, no fear, only truth. She reached for his hand. Slowly, carefully. This time he didn't hesitate. Their fingers intertwined, naturally, as if they had always belonged there. And perhaps they had. The hidden valley appeared at dawn, beautiful, peaceful, untouched by war. A place forgotten by the world. A place where Queen Selene had survived for 23 years. Alara's heart hammered as they approached. Every step felt unreal. Then she saw her, standing beside a cottage, waiting. A woman with silver-brown hair, a familiar smile, familiar eyes. The same eyes staring back from every mirror. Mother. The word hit harder than anything else. Neither woman moved at first. Neither seemed able. 23 years of loss stood between them. 23 years of grief. 23 years of missing each other. Then Selene began walking. Slowly. Tears already falling. Alara moved too. Then both started running. The distance vanished. The years vanished. And mother and daughter finally embraced. Neither could stop crying. Neither wanted to. Because some moments deserved tears. This was one of them. The ritual began that night. Moonlight covered the valley. Ancient symbols surrounded the clearing. The air felt alive, powerful, watching, waiting. Everyone gathered. Kale, Lucian, Selene, Mira, Seraphine, Rowan, and Alara. At the center, the bridge, the connection, the final hope. The ritual started. Pain followed immediately. Blinding pain. Every nerve screamed. Every breath burned. The world disappeared. Time disappeared. Only light remained. Silver light. Endless silver light. Then voices emerged. Memories. Dreams. Fragments. Her childhood. Her mother. her father, Kale, the rejection, the protection, the journey, everything, every moment, every wound, every act of love, all connected, all part of the same story. Then the light grew brighter, 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 until everything vanished. Alara opened her eyes. Morning sunlight warmed her face. Birds sang nearby. The valley remained peaceful. For one terrifying second, she remembered nothing. Then everything returned. The ritual, the pain, the risk, the choice. She sat up instantly. Kale, a familiar voice answered. I'm here. Relief flooded her. Kale stood nearby, alive, healthy, the poison gone. Tears filled her eyes. Then another voice spoke. My turn. Alara turned and saw her mother, alive, smiling, healthy. The wound was gone, the poison gone, everything gone. It had worked. The impossible ritual had worked. 3 months later, the kingdoms gathered. Not for war, for peace. The truth about Aurelian finally emerged. Varric's crimes were exposed. His conspirators hunted down. The lies ended. The hatred ended. The fear ended. For the first time in a generation, the kingdoms stood united. And at the center of it all stood Ilara. Not as a servant, not as an outcast, not as a forgotten Omega, but as herself, exactly as she had always been. The wedding took place in the same valley where everything changed, the same valley where she found her mother, the same valley where hope survived. Thousands attended, kings, queens, warriors, families, friends, everyone. And this time, no one laughed, no one whispered, no one judged, because everyone knew the truth. They knew her worth. More importantly, she knew it too. Alara stood at the beginning of the aisle, a white dress flowing behind her. Her hands trembled slightly, not from fear, from happiness. Then someone offered her his arm. Lucian, her father. He smiled, proud, emotional, a little overwhelmed. Ready? Alara laughed through tears. Almost. He squeezed her hand, then began walking. Together. Father and daughter. Toward the future. Toward healing. Toward love. At the end of the aisle stood Kale, waiting, smiling. The smile she once believed she'd never see. The smile she now loved. And as she reached him, the Alpha King who once rejected his mate gently took her hands, never letting go again. The crowd erupted into cheers, but Alara barely heard them. Because Kale leaned close and whispered something only she could hear. 3 simple words. The words she had waited her whole life to hear. I choose you. And this time, he always would. The end.